Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will be finishing the rig of our character, and I've finally gotten my work computer to my house, so screen recordings actually isn't that much of an issue anymore. So I recorded like a 2.5 hour video and I'm just gonna sift through it. Alright, so we're pretty much working up from the neck to the head. And I'm gonna call this the neck bone, the head bone. So we're gonna do face rigging right now, and I'm just gonna create all of the bones that I really need for the face. So I'm gonna have some around the eyes, for the eyebrows, the nose, and the mouth. So right now I'm just duplicating this head bone. And then just keep duplicating it. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna pair the mesh with the armature now already with automated weights just to see what it looks like. Okay, that was not looking very good. So either you can fix it with directly using weight paint, or alternatively, I think what I'm doing is moving the bones around a little bit more. And I think right now the issue was that the bone was either too far in or too far out, so that the eyebrow wasn't actually attached, so Blender didn't. Ooh, look at that teeth. I'll fix the teeth in a bit. Yeah, so you saw that just now the eyebrow wasn't actually paired very well using the automated version, so I'm gonna move all of these bones out a little bit, and hopefully then Blender can pair it to the eyebrows automatically. I don't really know what the actual code is for automated weights, but I'm guessing it's some combination of like a sphere of influence of some radius around the bone. So if you move it out, hopefully the bone will actually, that sphere will include the actual eyebrow mesh. Alright, let's pair it again with automated weights. Now, a lot of issues can be fixed if you just kind of move the bones into positions better instead of working with weight paint, which we will do later on, but it's just a bit tedious, with weights. Okay, that's looking a lot better. See, now the bone has actually grabbed the eyebrow. But you can see that last bone at the edge of the eye has, the eyebrow has grabbed part of the lashes as well, so that needs to be fixed with weight paint. So I've duplicated the head again and rotated it a bit. This big bone now is going to be the jawbone. So I want her to be able to go like, just open her jaw. And you need to pair the bottom of the lips with the jawbone, so that when the jaw moves, it grabs the lips as well. So Control P and you keep offset. So right now I'm trying to rig up the eye. And so the hairs, the eye, are currently separate objects. I set the origin of the object to geometry, so you can see the origins right in between both the eyes. And this is because we want to add an armature there. If you do Shift S and then cursor to selected, that will make the cursor go into the the middle, the point between the two eyes, the origin. And then you create an armature, and then you do Shift S, select it to cursor. That will move the armature exactly in between the two eyes. So now I do Shift S, cursor to selected. That moves the cursor exactly in the middle of that eyeball. And then I duplicate the armature, and I do Shift S, selection to cursor, which moves the armature that I duplicated onto that eyeball. I want it right in the middle. And I do the same for the other eye. cool. And then now I'm going to just join all the armatures together. Pair those two bones to the central, well, head bone. I'm gonna just scale these two eye bones down, and I'm gonna rotate them along the x-axis by 90 degrees. Okay, so these are going to be the bones that are then paired with the eyeballs. Duplicate these two eye bones and move them a little bit far out. Duplicate the head bone as well and move it out further. You can scale the head bone, the new head bone, a bit down, low down, yeah. What this is gonna do is this bone right now is going to be the one that we're gonna move. That's gonna control the entire motion of the two eyes. So if we take those two bones at the front, this is gonna be the eye controller. That bone we call the head bone. iParent.R, iParent.L. This is the eye controller, which is the main eye controller. Those are the separate eye controllers on the left and right hand side. I'm gonna make sure these bones don't deform because they're kind of just bones that we move so that everything's tracked to it. I'm gonna clear the parent of the eye controllers because I essentially want them to, each individual controller to be connected to the central controller. Keep offset, and then the central controller is then paired, or a child of the temporary head bone. So now what you do is I selected the mesh and then I selected the armature. You go into pose mode and you click that bone. Right now, for example, in pose mode, you control click that bone and then control P and you set the parent of that eyeball to that bone. So basically that bone is just connected to the entire mesh of the eyeball. And then you take the controller, shift click the actual eyeball bone, and then you do control shift C and then you do track to. So, and now it works. So when you move the central bone, that bone then moves the two separate eye controller bones, and those bones are what the eyes then track to. So if you look into materials, I'm just trying to, I got really excited, so I just put in the materials panel, and I've already textured my eye, and this was just following, like, there's so many YouTube videos out there. Okay, going back to the model. Okay, I've joined the bones. I deleted the temporary head bone, and I tried to just pair now everything to the main head bone, and then parent all the respective bones to the actual head bone. Like, what is going on? Nani? So that weird deformation occurred when I actually tried to take the mesh and then parent it to the armature with automatic weights, and you just see random deformation. So now what I'm doing is just restarting and separating all the rigs that are relevant to the eye from the rest of the body. In, let's see, object mode, I'm going to select the eye rig, clear its parent for now, shift select the body, join them together, take the temporary head bone and parent that to the actual head bone. So when the actual head bone moves, the temporary head bone moves, and so the eyes also move. Now let's pair our body mesh with the armature again, and automatic weights. Oh, I love how fast it is now. Like, worth investing in a good computer. Okay, now let's go to pose mode and moment of truth roller, and it works. So basically, after all of that, the way to do it is just, you can join the armature of the eye rig with the body rig. You just need to pair the head bone to the temporary head bone to the actual head bone, And make sure that your eyes and your body are still separate objects. And also make sure that all of the bones in the eye rigging things don't deform the mesh. So when you do parrot, they don't deform anything, they're just there and move the eyeballs. Of course, the eyeballs themselves are parented to the actual, eye bone. Right now I'm moving the lips, and you can see the teeth are also moving with it, and it's not in a very good way. So what I did with the teeth is basically separate them as an object as well. So if you go into object mode and you click the armature and then you shift click the mesh, you can go into white paint mode, and when you control click a bone, it will tell you which part of the mesh that bone deforms. Right now I'm just going to create the bones for the fingers, and I'm going to take the hand IK bone, duplicate it, and then every finger is going to just have three finger bones. Okay, so in pose mode, in order to make the fingers kind of curl this way, a really good trick is to just take the base bone and then shift click the middle one, and then control shift C, track to. But you want to make sure that you're on local axis and local x-axis. So if you see, you rotate that, the whole finger rotates like this. For the very tip finger, you just take the middle one and then shift click the tip finger and do the same thing. Control shift C, copy rotation, and then local axis, and in this case it's the local x-axis. But for your model, make sure you display axes, and then you can tell which axis is rotating around. And you pretty much do this for the same thing for every single finger. Okay, so I've done the same for all the fingers, and if you do all of these constraints in pose mode, when you symmetrize in edit mode, it will all the constraints will automatically be done on the right hand side as well. So do everything you need to do, symmetrize at the very end. Alright, so take all the finger bones, because they're all named .l, symmetrize, and cool. It's a lot of work I don't have to do. I think now I'm just going to work on the toe bones. So the toe.l, remember this was the main controller. Just going to duplicate that, and one per every toe. Take all of these tiny toe bones. I finally decided to rename this. So this is foot controller final.l. There we go. It's a better name. Rename the little toes. Make sure these are deforming, and right now you can see they're not deformed, so I think I'll run into issues with that later. Doi. Oh, okay, never mind. I know. Deform them. Make sure they deform. Yeah, that one needs to be called foot controller final.r, so that the little toes on the right hand side know which one they need to parent to. Resymmetrize, and they're automatically parented because our naming is now correct. This is why naming schemes are really important. Okay, now take the whole mesh and parent it with automatic weights again to the armature. This should be all the bones that I really need, and now it's just a matter of constraints in pose mode and a bit of weight painting. Alright, let's go into pose mode and see if we have something decent. Okay, first you can see that the eye tracking still works. That's good. Then let's go into the fingers. So let's rotate. Well, let's move the hand. Okay, everything moves with it. That's good. Take the fingers and rotate. That looks pretty alright. So this will help immensely when I animate her, so I don't have to move, you know, the fingers every joint at one go. Individually, sorry. Now I can move all the joints in one go when I animate. Okay, the foot can pivot. That's very good. So what I'm doing now is take the toe, for example, the big toe, and basically make that copy the rotation of the foot IK, but you invert two of the axes. So when the foot goes like this bend, the toe moves up a little bit, so it gives more like the toes are rotating. And then pretty much make all the other toes copy the rotation of the big toe. And take down the influence as you go down in the toe, so there's like all the toes gradually rotate. So as you can see, when I rotate now, all of the toes are rotating a little bit in the opposite direction, which makes it look more natural. Alright, so in the end I decided to have the little toes copy the motion of the foot IK, so that the small toe can point down instead of up. So instead of instead of copying the rotation of the big toe, the small toe just copies the rotation of the foot bone. Alright, take the whole thing, finally can symmetrize that again. So when you symmetrize it, the bone constraints should also copy over. Oh, now that I'm moving the hand, you can see that the belt doesn't move anymore, so I think Blender automatically has just fixed it, which is quite nice. Okay, let's just see again how these bones actually deform the face. Okay, that needs to be painted. So to do that, you click the armature and then shift click the mesh and then go to weight paint mode, and then you control click the desired bone, and now you can see what it affects. So to paint weight, the red is 1, and basically as blue as it gets is 0 in terms of effectiveness. So right now I'm just taking the brush and then taking the strength of 0 to get rid of some of the effects of that bone on the upper eyelids. Make sure that in the brush setting you untick the only front faces, so you can paint through the mesh. But if you just want to paint on a single surface, you have to click that front facing surface, otherwise it will paint to the back as well. Right, for that part of the eyebrow, I also don't want any, let's just paint the whole upper eyelid blue, because I don't want that to affect the eyelashes. And on the right hand side, you can see the vertex groups that every time I click, it highlights a different vertex group. And after you paint, if you want to save it, you just make sure you lock that vertex group, so that no matter what you do later on in terms of like reattaching the armature to the mesh, Blender will not like reassign it to the old like bad values. If you lock it, means it will never be changed unless you unlock it and change it. And I've made this mistake many times. Like I spent ages painting something, get it to exactly what I want, forget to lock it, and then when I reattached armature and reparent it with the mesh, it all goes away. In the future, I'll make another video about how to use bendy bones to rig the face, because we're using B bones, we can add segments to it, so we could potentially get a lot more flexibility and freedom when we use bendy bones, but I haven't tried that yet, so we'll see. Alright, for this I'm gonna lock that and lock that. When it's purple, it just means that bone is not deforming any part of the mesh because you've unchecked deform. Yeah, I'm painting on one side of the face, but the other side is also being painted on, so it's almost like a mirroring effect. As you can see, I can't even paint on that middle part of the nose, and something seems to be weird. And the reason for that is, yes, you can go under tab, you can uncheck the X mirror, because sometimes that's just checked by accident, and it will paint on both sides. You can also check or uncheck auto normalize. So if you have auto normalize on, it will just make sure all the weight, adds up to 1. Sometimes I just can't paint on the mesh anymore, so you just uncheck auto. You can uncheck auto normalize, paint, and then recheck it again later on. Yeah, so this nose bone is gonna be able to control the way she kind of goes, like. Yeah. Alright, for the mouth. So for example, you don't want the lip to affect the inside of the mouth. I might have a separate bone for the tongue in the future. And to do that, make sure in the brush setting you uncheck the front facing tool, so that when you paint, for example, into the mouth, you paint all of the vertices that it affects inside. And you can see I can't really paint on the teeth, and I think this is like an issue again with auto normalization. So I think later on I just completely separated the teeth as a mesh from the rest of the body. Go into edit mode and select the teeth and basically unpair it from the rest of the mesh. And an amazing thing in Blender is that if you hover over the teeth, for example, and press L, it will select everything that's kind of a whole mesh on its own. So the teeth obviously aren't actually connected to the rest of the body via a vertex. So L will just select everything that's encapsulated in a vertex group. P, separate by selection. So now the teeth are separate object. Trying to find that in the side panel. I couldn't find it. So it's because it's still part of the armature. So Alt P, clear parent. Now you can see the teeth. It's got body 0.002. So I'm gonna rename that as teeth. Click the teeth, control click the armature, go into pose mode, and select the head bone, the main head bone, and then control P hopefully, and set the parent to the bone. So now that head bone will move the entire teeth independently, because I don't really need much, movement in the teeth anyway. They're all, a fixed object, so very easy to not have to animate it. Okay, so now if I go back into weight paint mode, so click the armature and then shift click the, okay, now I automatically parent with weight again. And remember, some vertex groups were locked, which means now when I automatically assign the weights, Blender will ignore all of the locked groups. So I get to keep my changes. If you look at the lips, the teeth are no longer obviously highlighted because they're just a separate mesh now. So all I have to do is kind of unpaint the tongue. I think there's an option in which you can have a mask, so if you select specific vertices, you can only paint weight on those specific vertices. I forgot how that was done, so I just got lazy and just did it the brute force way of this. This is why I hate weight painting. It's so tedious. You should have seen my first project. I spent days just fixing weight paints. Now for the head, I'm just gonna paint the entire head red, because I want full control. I guess it doesn't really matter because all of the face and head is pretty much controlled by all of the extra bones in the front, and all of those are paired to the head. So when the head moves, all of it will move anyway, but for completeness sake, just paint the whole face red. Okay, for the clavicle, you can see that the arm is yellow, so it's more affected than the shirt, which is like light blue. So I'm gonna try to highlight more of the shirt. Because I guess if she were to, you know, pull her shoulders in, then the arm will pretty much come out of the shirt. If I go into the materials panel, it actually doesn't look too bad in the materials panel. If you don't, you know, get too close to the face. It could pass for closing eyes. Like if I make her blink, you know, it will be quite a quick motion and it doesn't look too deformed. So yeah, you can see the pants, the leg rig doesn't look good where the pants join to the body again, so I need to fix that. Remember, if they're separate pieces of mesh, it's very unlikely you get a really good smooth weight distribution when you do automatic weights. The pants actually didn't join up with the body. They're still, the vertices are still, you know, there's two separate loops. I just joined the mesh together, but not the actual vertices. Here is where the pants end. 88 vertices. Grab the bottom edge loop of the body, scale SZ0 to scale them along, well, the XY plane, along the Z axis to 0, so they're all lying flat. Just gonna grab the top edge loop of the pants, and I'm going to extrude them and then scale them in. So now I have 88 vertices to work with, and I'm gonna try to decimate them. Because remember, we can -2 vertex every time we merge 3 and delete an edge. So then I can just -44 vertices and we're good to go. Alright, I've got 44 vertices now. I'm gonna take the edge loop, shift click the body edge loop, which also has 44 vertices. And then bridge edge loops. So now basically the body is connected to the pants. This is a very, very hacky way, and I don't recommend doing it this way. I just really should have thought about this when I created the mesh, and I just thought I should just have deleted it immediately and then connected it in a more seamless fashion. Okay, so now if you look at me moving the leg, the whole body kind of moves. There's no hole anymore. So before that hole was created because the vertices of the body just simply weren't connected to the pants. Yeah, I'm pretty much just excited to play around with the rig at this point. So here's the final result, and as you can see, the skin looks a lot better because I pretty much followed an online tutorial on how to make better skin, in which you have a bump map as well as a skin alpha texture map, and I'll link down all the details below. So I just put her in kind of a pose position to show the bone rigging effect results, and it looks, I think at this point, pretty okay. The only thing I want to say from the last video is that the teeth shouldn't have been parented only to the back of the head. The teeth, the bottom of the teeth, I've separated the top and bottom row of the teeth. The top row of the teeth was parented to the back of the head because it doesn't really move that much when you talk and stuff, but the bottom row of the teeth was parented then to the jaw, so when I, for example, open my mouth, the teeth will move down as well. Now I've created 2 poses, one that you just saw and one right now. This is the sitting pose. I've also just created a chair. I might do some furniture tutorials in the future, but this is kind of what it looks like for now, and I think in future videos I will start to animate her, so I will go through kind of more of the poses and stuff in detail in future videos. But in any case, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.